Jess in BC, how are you?
I'm good, thanks, Matt. How are you doing?
Pretty good.
Good. So, the reason I'm calling is a few shows ago, I remember you had mentioned, a couple times actually, that you're sort of either, an atheist or a theist.
Yes.
Now, I would concede that sort of the logical default position, sort of given what we know on the universe, is definitely atheism. But I do feel that it's sort of just given the natural human tendency to kind of personify the unknown, the sort of forces in the universe, that just conceding the word God to a lot of people, I think sort of, I don't think it's too much of a semantic trick to sort of say, listen, let's just call the unknown forces in the universe and the sort of the wonder and amazement we have about it, let's call that God.
Why?
And you know what? Well, because it's already sort of a well-established concept in human culture and human history and, around the world, I think. I think it's just basically, I know up here in Canada, I think a lot of the people that actually, go to church and that, I think when I actually debate them and sort of talk to them about sort of the religion, they actually turn out to be deists.
Well, so what? Here's my thing. If we're gonna use a term, and there's a term that has such widely varied uses as God, then if you say the things that we don't know about the universe we are justified in calling God, what you're doing is using a term that automatically smuggles in all kinds of baggage in addition to what you're actually talking about, and I don't find that justified in the slightest.
And not only that, you are answering the question of, you're answering all of those things that you don't understand by slapping this blanket term God on them instead of leaving them open questions so you can legitimately explore them later.
Yeah, why not just, what's wrong with just saying that I don't know the explanation for the universe, but it is whatever it is?
Well, no, but I don't think by calling the forces of the universe a God sort of says that you know anything about them. For me, what it is basically...
No, I'm not saying that it does. You might not know anything about them, but what's the justification for taking a word that normally points to an actual agent and applying it to mysterious forces that you don't understand and can't explain? There's nothing necessarily agent-like about the weak nuclear force.
So, obviously what's sort of missing here, and we're not going to be able to nail down a good term for the term God, but there is, you'd have to concede that there is a natural tendency for human beings to sort of personify things around them.
There are a lot of natural human tendencies, and not all of them are things that it is a good idea to embrace. There's a lot of natural human tendencies that lead us in wrong directions, that worked great as instincts when we were primitive hunter-gatherers or apes swinging through the trees or little furtive furry things in the undergrowth, right, trying to avoid the dinosaurs. There's a lot of instincts that we have inherited that now that we are thinking creatures living in an advanced technological society, we need to get a handle on those, identify the ones that are not really optimal, and stop doing it.
Yeah, we have a tendency to see agency where there is none. This, as Jeff was kind of summarizing, can keep you safe. Yeah. We have a tendency to rely on authority figures. It's actually really useful when you're dealing with kids who don't have the knowledge and information. There's no reason to say that because we have those tendencies, that it's therefore okay for us to just shrug things off to authorities or to go ahead and continue presuming agency where we don't have any good reason to do so.
Mm-hmm. So I guess the crux of sort of why I called was, I've got sort of a large percentage of my family, or half of them, I'm married into sort of a Portuguese family who are like hardcore Catholics. Mm-hmm. And so basically, when I was meeting all them, and I sort of didn't want to quite come off like the godless atheist because they had a lot of misperceptions. They sort of, the word atheism, obviously how people misuse it isn't our fault. But at the same hand, I don't want people to think if I say that I'm an atheist that I don't have a sense of wonder or a sense of awe about the universe.
Then tell them that.
I feel that when you say that you're a deism, that when you're a deist, that's the one thing that it does sort of reserve, is that a sense of like, I don't know, and I appreciate, and I'm in sort of awe of the world around us.
Not to me, it doesn't.
Is sometimes,
Yeah, did you miss?
Sometimes religious people. Okay,
Jess,
go ahead.
Jess, did you miss the whole phone call we had earlier with the guy who was the deist?
Actually,
we
honest,
went over.
I missed half of it because half of it. Yes, I did because my son was bothering me while I was waiting on hold.
Okay, well, sorry about that. We covered that whole thing earlier. Maybe it would be a good idea for you to watch
I'll look at it on YouTube after for sure.
I think you've got this exactly backwards. Now, if you don't want people to think that you don't have any wonder or awe or sense of mystery in your life, then you tell them and you show them. It is the wonder and awe and mystery within the rational mindset that sends us out to look for answers, when instead you just take all the things you don't know and you slap a God label on them. That means you don't really have the wonder and awe and mystery anymore. You've now labeled it and you're done with it.
I guess what it comes down to is I don't have a problem with just the word God, but what I do have a problem with is the fact that sometimes when you say the word atheist, their brains just sort of shut down and they just sort of put a whole bunch of ideas on that word. And one of them definitely is this sort of sense that, and I mean, I think atheists in general can come off as a little bit too sort of logical and sort of a little bit too sort of hypercritical over sort of semantics.
It's not going to help matters, to get people to understand who atheists really are and what we really mean if we go adopting their terminology just to look more acceptable to them, when that term you're suggesting we adopt means a whole lot more to them than that little bit that you were talking about. Okay.
It also doesn't
means
help.
a vast more. Now, if you need to stay in the closet, right, or if you need to stay under the radar.
You have to understand.
Whatever you need to do, Jess. Whatever you need to do to get by, we're going to be totally understanding. There's no atheist dogma that says you're going to burn in Darwin's basement if you use the word God, right? I mean, okay, fine. If that's what you have to do, the position we're coming from is a broader, general perspective of what the atheist case really is and what it is we're really trying to say, and we're not agreeing with you that ultimately that's a good move. But if that's what you need to do, that's a whole different question.
And to spin off of that for a second, Jess, and talk about Sam Harris. Sam Harris once tried to argue that we shouldn't use the word atheist as well. It was the stupidest thing he's ever said. It was
the term that Christians used to be called by, sorry, go ahead.
It was the stupidest thing he ever said, and here's why. You're worried about what people's perceptions of atheists actually are. And if that's your worry, then the best thing you can do is not be dishonest. Because I'm pretty sure that you don't actually believe in a God in the agent sense.
No.
Okay,
no.
Which means that you are an atheist by almost every useful definition of the term. And when you get in a conversation with somebody who believes in a God in the normative sense, and they finally get around to what you believe, and you actually admit to what you actually believe, now they think that you were dishonest about your beliefs, that you were trying to hide it because you were an atheist. And while that's fine, I'm with Jeff in that nobody is required to be out or anything else. If you think your life, your welfare, your happiness, your relationships, by all means don't come out. I'm just saying that as a group and as a movement, I want us to be honest in portraying who we are, what we believe, and why. And I wouldn't want atheists to say, you know what? So many people are confused about what atheism is. I think we should just all call ourselves deists now, because that's stupid.
I guess where sort of I'm also coming from too is when I've had debates with religious people and I sort of argue from the point of being an atheist, I find that it's a little bit tougher. Whereas if I say, listen, I'll give you your God and your Creator, but there's no way that he has anything to do with sort of a day-to-day things. I just think if we're trying to convert religious people to sort of, I just feel like the converting people to sort of deism, sort of letting them go of their holy books is sort of a safer ground for religious people to go to.
I think that's massively insulting. I think it's massively insulting that that you have this view that people cannot just give up the idea of God, that they need some sort of stopgap fakery God to help them get out of it. Now, it's entirely possible that some people do, but I have no idea what percentage of people might actually need that.